So before we dive into this segment of the Tartan Stand, after the Scottish Premiership chaotic week, I do have to do a wee disclaimer. Part one file got corrupted, so there won't be any talk for Dundee United, Rangers, and Falkirk and St Mirren. Apologies if you are obviously fans of those clubs. I tried everything I could. It is my fault. My OneDrive never synced up properly. Jesus Christ, I can't even talk. So we are going to be moving away from OneDrive, so that doesn't happen again. But yeah, they will be back on next week. So yeah, definitely tune into that. But for now, part two. When I say part two, it's going to be part one. Very confusing, but yeah, hit a like button, subscribe, follow on Spotify, and I'll see you all for the next one. Hello, ladies and gents, welcome back to the Tartan Stand. This will be part two of the segment, and we'll be talking about the most interesting games of the weekend. That's obviously Aberdeen against Hearts, the Saturday late kickoff, and obviously St Johnstone against Kilmarnock, a 7-goal thriller, which I actually predicted nothing each. So yeah, don't take any gambling expertise from me. But Harry, Dean, obviously Coops and Josh, how are we, boys?
All good,
great.
all good.
Yeah, I'm all right.
I guess you're a Kelly and Hearts fan. You won't be all good after this video, but
Fantastic.
we will go into the Aberdeen and Hearts game. Obviously, that was the Saturday night kick-off. And we'll start off with you, Harry, because it was at Tawdry. What was your thoughts heading into the game, especially having a decent Premier Sports Cup, group stage?
I heading up, I actually felt really confident, which was terrifying because I couldn't remember the last time I'd gone to Tawdry confident. But I did have a few reservations about the group stage we had, because I don't think in that entire group we played a good or comfortable 90 minutes total. We would always have like a really good 30, 45 minute spell, and we'd kind of revert a bit to getting outworked and outfought by lower league sides, which isn't entirely uncommon when Premiership sides play lower league sides, because they do have more physicality a lot of the time. But I did just kind of think, if we don't get off to the best start against Hearts, how are we going to react to that? What are we going to do? And I thought first half was a bit nothing until we conceded that goal. And I thought, this I see what's going to happen here. But I can't remember the last time we, never mind equalised in the 90th minute, won in the 90th minute. It does give me a bit of hope for the mentality of the team going forward, because that's something that's been sorely lacking from Aberdeen in the past few years.
Josh, we were also talking about the lineup in the European review. Did you think Franken finally picked the right lineup, that the players that he had at his disposal?
He did. I'm happy that he brought on Stuart Finlay to start, even though it ended not quite well. I'm still confused of why Tom Renaud isn't starting. I think he's quality. I think he's.
I think he was suspended from the game. I think that carried over from his last FA.
Oh, right. Well, that explains that then. I'm happy Magnuson came on. I think he's a player that really helped Hearts compete last season. He's strong, he's physical, but the lineup was good. I don't think there was no complaints from me. I think individually players had a pretty bad performance. First half was shite. Both teams were pretty poor, but I think it's a miracle we managed to score in that first half. Obviously, the ending result wasn't great, but it is what it is. We need to move on. But
Harry, obviously Aberdeen did win by 2-1. You did speak about getting 2 goals and within 5 minutes of stoppage time. Was Aberdeen winning a fair outcome of the result, or you're thinking a draw was probably best with the two teams' performances?
I think a draw would have been about fair, to be honest. I think a lot of people, brought up stats on Twitter about our XG or whatever being higher, but that's because we had a penalty, so that's going to happen. I think there wasn't much to separate either set of teams. I don't think anyone had a proper chance, barring the goal, which came from a defensive error. And then, until our goal, I don't think anyone had really made anything of the game. We got the 3 points there, but I think it's more of a reflection on Hearts than us, because this isn't the first time under the new manager that Hearts kind of have a they concede, and then there's just a period of absolute madness after, where they concede more and more and more. And I don't know if Hearts fans are worried about that, about the mentality they have when they go behind. But we can't lose sight of the fact that we won and it's a great result. We got lucky there. In another reality where we just don't get that little bounce or that little bit of luck, we're talking about, oh, it's going to be the same old season. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. We're going to be in a relegation battle, and then getting the momentum on the board here and just carrying that on and not losing the plot if we do lose to Dundee or if we do lose to Kelly or Motherwell coming up is probably the most important thing, just taking it one game at a time.
Josh, I made a video after the game and I seen a lot of comments about Hearts fans and the manager. A lot of them seem to be worrying. I don't know if that's just the emotional side of it straight after the game. But do you think Hearts fans have a right to be worried, or do you think, you know what, just take it step by step right now?
To be worried about the manager? No. Because after that Aberdeen game, there was two things that I felt bad for, the fans and the manager. Because Harry's spot on. Our first 3 competitive matches this season, we have conceded a goal and we've conceded one 5 minutes later, within 5 minutes later. And that's a serious mentality issue. Now, what Walter done throughout the Aberdeen game was completely fine. We played it perfectly. And yet again, a set piece has let us down. That's something we're going to need to work on as well. Set pieces, everything. I don't think it's a reflection on the manager, what happened at Aberdeen.
Dean, I'm going to bring you in because obviously St Johnstone and Kilmarnock game was utterly bonkers, but I'm going to ask a question that might seem bizarre for the first game of the season. Did you think St Johnstone, this was a must-win game for them at home, and especially having like a poor cup campaign? Do you think it was a must-win to get your season a wee bit going in the right direction for a change?
No, because I think, well, there's an element of it's a flag day. There's the expectation for the fans. You've got to represent kind of thing, spectacle of like first game back in the top flight. But no, I don't think it was. It's the first game, like exactly the same. Probably the Hearts and Hibs fan agree with me that you've not. Sorry, Hearts and Aberdeen. And there, you can't read too much into a first game. It's too much of a long season to be saying, oh, win your first game, that's defining the season. Never defines the first season.
Cool. So I'm going to bring you in. Are you going to finish, Dean? I'll let you go if you've got it.
No, I was going to just repeat myself, but in a different format. So it's all right, go for it.
Coops, obviously St Johnstone is the newly promoted team. You have this horrible away record. It's continued again. Is that something that needs to change, especially if you come up against a newly promoted team and losing?
Well, yeah, you want to go away from home on the first game of the season, and especially when you're bringing the newly promoted team up, or that's your opponent, I should say, that you want to go away with 3 points. But it was never, Seymour has done a great job with St Johnstone. Even the season that you got relegated, there was a situation where it wasn't really it was out with his control in that season when they got relegated. They done what they needed to do in the Championship, and they've kind of brought that up. I mean, yes, there's issues with probably, Dino probably kind of echo the sentiment. There was issues with St Johnstone in the game, even though they won. There was plenty of issues for Kilmarnock. So no, I don't think there's a worry. There's the usual fans from Kilmarnock, because we're a fickle bunch. There's a lot of them saying, that's it, we're done, that's terrible, there's no worries, we're to pack it all up. But like, it's situational for Kilmarnock against St Johnstone. It was a weird game. Like, we had a 20-minute spell. It should never have been 4-3. God knows how we got in that first half, one each. There's a lot of things that, and McCann came out, and by the sounds of it, we all saw what the issues were. So it's easy to fix. It wasn't like we came away from the game and we don't know, how did we lose that? What happened? We knew very early on what the issue was, and obviously we'll go into a bit more, but Kelly's away form isn't great, and then when Hearts had McInnes, their away form wasn't great either. So I wonder if there's a reason, but it is what it is. I'm sure it'll sort itself out over the course of the year. We'll figure it out. So no, I'm not one of the ones that's overly panicked. I was disappointed. I was disappointed in the manner we lost the goals. I was disappointed in how the game went. But you can kind of see the fact that we managed to score 3 goals, and then there was a period in the second half where you could see exactly what McCann wants. And we know with the way McCann wants to set out Kilmarnock, we're going to have games like this. We're going to be 4-3, 3-2s, 3-eaches, because that's how he plays. The biggest issue I have, though, is that we knew Deasy was suspended, but we never seemed to play the partnership of Stanger and Brown during the League Cup group stages to try and get a kind of an understanding. But I mean, if anybody's seen the highlights or watched the game, that wasn't Dean and I, like, Ethan Brown's issues weren't just a misunderstanding with the other centre back. You know, he just doesn't look like he's a Premier League player. He looked completely out of his depth. It wasn't one mistake. I think he was probably at fault for about 3 of them, out of the 4 goals, to be honest with you. And he just floundered completely. It was really bad. And I was saying that to my son who was at the game, and I was like, you know, when I saw it on the TV after, I'm like, he just doesn't know what he's doing. And he's been in the club now for a while. So, yeah, there's some issues with that. But, you know, we'd signed a couple of defensive players just before the game. We're actually looking like there's a rumour that we're looking to bring in a centre-back that's got 300-odd games under his belt from England, which is basically what we need. We're too inexperienced in the back line, and that's kind of where we're kind of floundering.
Dean, obviously you did win by 4 goals to 3. There were some maybe mishaps at the back, but over the course of the full game, were you happy with the overall performance from St Johnstone?
Yeah, overall, got the 3 points. Happy days. We'll take them and go to the next one. But I do also think I don't know how much of it's first game syndrome and first game back, a relatively new team. Being it like when we ended the game, it was essentially, apart from like Holt and maybe 3 others, that it was essentially a new squad. It was all new signings. But I don't think that we definitely deserved to win the game, because I was sitting there in the stand going, when he brought the 2 subs of Fodringham and Chalmers, I was genuinely sitting there going, why is McCann not reacting to that? Because they were getting overrun on both wings, and I'm like, he's doubled up, he's pushed up the wing backs and doubled up on you. Why are you not reacting? And it just, at that point, I was like, right, we're winning this. As soon as we scored the set piece with the own goal, that, let's be honest, it's probably, I don't know how the Coops was best, but it's poor defending. The fact that you've let that come across all about your back post, and it's unlucky on a defender, but it's the fact of we went behind, and then they've not seen it out. But the fact he hasn't reacted to them 2 subs is mind-boggling. But nah, I'm happy with the result, and I will take it, and I will run away, and I'll be like, no, God, mine's now. You know?
Coops, obviously, you know, I was going to ask you a question. What does St Johnstone really do better than Kilmarnock? Most of the time, the goals came from errors from both teams, but was that little edge at St Johnstone that they did something better than Kilmarnock to walk away with the 3 points? So you just think, you know what, it was a mental game. It is what it is.
I think the thing that St Johnstone did, and there's a journalist I follow, it's called the Kelly Chronicle, and they kind of put on a really good analysed the game. And what they highlighted and what we saw at the time was, anytime Ethan Brown had the ball, St Johnstone let him do what he wanted with it. And the minute the ball went near Lowry or Tishbola, that midfield went straight on top of them. And Tishbola didn't have a great game. And you know, Dean and probably the other 2 guys for their team, but more importantly for the guys further down the league, if you have one player that's a bit off the boil, you can kind of manage it. But see, with Kilmarnock having the back 4, or at least the 2 centre backs, and then Tishbola, who is called the midfield controller, that's his job. When they're off it, and you've got 3 or 4 players that are just not playing well, you're not winning. Doesn't matter who you are, and that's, you know, you might get away with that if you're a Hearts or Rangers or Celtic, because you've got that wee bit extra quality, and then you've got the quality to come on. So the issue, St Johnstone just seemed a wee bit more up for it in general mentality, but the issue was that the mistakes that we made, they capitalised on, and the first one, Tishbola lost the ball. Instead of crossing it further up, we were far too passive in our own play. When we had the ball, it came back to Stryek. It went across our back four. We then kind of thought about going forward. Then we didn't go forward. And then we stood in the ball and fell on their ass. And then they scored the goal. It just was far too passive. And it's not how McCann wants to play it. And the McCann plays generally with a kind of diamonds and a kind of lopsided diamond formation with Kelty kind of sitting behind the front two. And you can only do that if you've got the ball in the midfield. And he couldn't keep the ball on the midfield because of the way that St Johnstone pressed it. But then you can't legislate for a player like Ethan Brown being as bad as he was in that defence. That back four is a makeshift back four because we've got Ufeko coming in, you've got Mayer, the new kind of left and right back from Germany, and Deasy suspended. That back four's not a back four we're going to see again, and it's unfortunate that it ended up being the way it was. It was now, as soon as I saw the lineup, I'm like, that's not going to be nothing each. That's not going to be 2-1. That's going to be going forward. We're fine. Defensively, we're going to have an issue, and if we can't control that midfield and allow like Eric Ryan, Kilty, Hugo, and John Jules to use their pace and their touch, we're going to have a problem because our defence isn't experienced enough, especially in this game with St Johnstone, to hold that, to keep the clean sheets. And we will do it because at the end of last season, the back line that we played is the players that are in the team this season. In the last 4 or 5 games, it was like 3-1, 4-0, 4-1. We scored about 15 goals and conceded like 2 in the last 4 or 5 games of the season. So we can do it. And that's partly why I'm not overly fussed about. I'm disappointed it's the first game and you've got St Johnstone. They've just come up, no disrespect, they've come up for the championship and you think, right, this is a chance for us to get something. The team that I've just promoted, you would prefer it at home. The next game we've got Celtic, you keep them in isolation because any other team you think, right, if we get a draw we'll be fine. Let's hope that the Celtic games are kind of just a performance rather than anything else. But it is what it is. There'll be more to come. There'll be more games like that with Kilmarnock involved, whether winning 4-3 or 5-3 or 5-2 than losing, especially the way McCann plays it. But yeah, it was disappointing, especially when you've got a player like Tishbola who's excited to come back. He had such a performance that was off, and I don't know if that's a pre-season thing because he came in with about a week before the start of the season, so it might take him a couple of games to get back into it. But we've got a squad there. We just need it just needs to get his finger in it. It wasn't good enough at all.
Harry, I'm not going to go over the performance because, like, we've obviously kind of discussed that the performance wasn't there. But is that a type of a result that can, get Aberdeen to a third place finish? Unless you're very optimistic, you can split the whole firm. Can that result, get Aberdeen to that third place finish at the end of the season?
I think third place is a way off. It depends on how everyone else is more than us, to be honest. But I don't think we've suddenly flipped the switch and we're going to not have a lot of the problems we did last year. Because up until our goal, or up until the changes, like Yogan, I really like as a player. I thought he was great at Dundee last year. He was off it on Saturday, and he's somebody we're going to have patience with. I thought we were a lot better when Lewis Smith came on. But up until the point where we made those changes, we didn't look much like scoring at all. We were quite comfortably penned in by Hearts. And even when we were getting runs at players, like Nisbet wasn't really anywhere to be found until we brought a second striker on, which helps him a lot. Nisbet struggles, I think, to get in the game when he's up front in the zone. I think defensively, you saw we had a bit of a nightmare with a goal. I don't think we're going to eliminate that altogether this season. I think there's going to be a lot more goals conceded like that. I would really hope to very least challenge for getting the European spots, which is a lot harder now that there's only 4 of them rather than 5. But I still think Hearts will finish third because they will click eventually, and especially once they're out of Europe, or if they even make it, they'll have less games. The January transfer window will probably be their friend with the money and analytics and stuff. I think I just want to see an improvement. I just want to go to the football on Saturday and not dread it like I have done for the past few years.
Josh, I think you kind of did touch upon it, so I probably will know your answer. But was Saturday more on the players rather than the manager?
100% in every aspect. I think we played well throughout the game. Like I said, the first half was basically a write-off from both teams, apart from the one goal we scored. But in the second half, we played better. Up until about the 75th, maybe 80th minute, we played better. But we never scored. And that's a problem with us. We seem to do very well and not score. And when we're at our lowest, we're scoring. It doesn't make sense. And that's something that just needs to get worked on. We've got Kabore, who came on, done well. He was running all about the place. He's a striker who struggles to get himself in like a nines position, but he's definitely got it in him to score the goals. And Basai, he was not in it really. He's physical. He's a big boy. Say that again.
I thought he did quite well for the goal to use his body to spin the man.
Yeah, that's it. He's physical. He's a good hold up on the ball. But apart from that, you see how slow he is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've never seen someone so slow. He's probably slower than Gary Cahill when he was about to retire. I mean, come on. I don't know who it was that was running in behind him. He was about 10 meters in front of him, and he still somehow never managed to get the ball first. I couldn't believe it. I thought we were on a break there, but apparently not. And but yeah, it's not on the manager. It's on the players.
What needs to change going into the Dundee United game? Because we kind of seen with their performance on Friday night, it was actually more positive for Dundee United than usual. Do you think, like in your mind, what needs to change going into that game to get the 3 points for Hearts?
Well, it's going to be difficult now that I know we've appealed for Stuart Finley's red card, but if it's a penalty, it's a red card. If it's not a penalty, it's not a red card.
They've rejected the appeal as well. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. See, that's the correct decision in my opinion, and it's going to be difficult with our centre backs being as minimum as possible. I mean, we had McEntee in centre back on Saturday. We never done too bad, to be fair, but Braga as well. He was off it. There's a lot of improvements needing made from every player individually. I don't think a certain lineup will fix that. I think something just needs to click. Something just needs to get in them, or just something needs to be there for them to fight for it. Last year we like Aberdeen, they had the League Cup to build momentum with, and that's something that we had last season. We won 4-0, 4-0, 4-1, went into the new season against Aberdeen, beat them 2-0, 10 games undefeated. We had that momentum. Losing 6-0 straight before a league season definitely did not help. And then especially going into the first game against a team that we haven't beat at Pittodrie in 10 years or 9 years, it's not going to go well. But it's just the players, they need to sort their shit.
Harry, I'm going to go to you because obviously Josh kind of answered my question. I seen a TikTok with Bobby Madden, and he says that Stuart Finley's red card shouldn't have been a red card. Do you agree with that outcome?
It's hard to say because the double jeopardy rule basically states that if he tried to play the ball and it's a penalty, then it's not a red card, right? And it's debatable whether he tried to play the ball. It's just kind of coming together. And given the fact that it was Olasanya through on goal, it can hardly be called a denial of a goal scoring opportunity. But I mean, if that's I think it's obviously a penalty. If that's up the other end, anybody would be screaming for it. I could take or leave the red card, to be honest. I don't think it's enough to appeal it, given that it was given on the pitch. If the ref hadn't given that on the pitch, I don't think anybody would have really been that crazy about it not getting given. I don't think I wouldn't have wanted a VAR check to take 5 minutes and give it in the end. It's tough, but I think it's one of those where it's just what got given on the pitch probably should stand. It's not enough to take it away or give it something either way. But I think with Hearts, what I saw in terms of like use going forward, if Braga's not on it and you're still trying to replace Shanklin's goals with Bassey, who you said is slower than a week in jail, and Kabore, who I've never personally rated that much as a striker. Kabore, I thought when Shanklin was injured last season, he was a big factor in you struggling a bit.
Yeah.
I think if you don't sign another striker and Braga has a period of bad form, you are going to really struggle to find goals, especially against teams like St Mirren, teams like Dundee United, who are going to sit in against you.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
Obviously, speaking about Dundee, you've got them up next. Aberdeen, is there anything that still concerns you heading into that game? Because as we've seen last night, they did put in a brave performance that could probably trouble a lot of teams.
I think mostly still just work rate. Getting to because it has improved a lot on last season. That's kind of noticeable. We look, all the players look a bit stone lighter. They look fitter. They look faster. But I still just think we're not quite. Everyone, my dad, when I watch the games, keeps going, "Oh, we're just not quite getting the break of the ball," and I don't buy that as an excuse too much because I feel like teams make their own luck. You get the break of the ball because you want it more a lot of the time. And we still seem to be that little step behind everyone in like certain points of the game. If we can get an early goal and just put in a full 90-minute performance, which we've not done yet, I'll be very happy about the game. I wouldn't write Dundee off at all. I think they looked quite well organised against Celtic, and defensively, they were sound. Celtic didn't really cause them that much trouble. And Celtic have far, far superior attackers to what Aberdeen do. I think I'd still be, in the most respectful way to Dundee possible. It's Dundee. They're a team that at the start of the season, when you're tallying up the points in your head, you maybe give yourself 3 points against them. I'd still hope for a win, but I think the next 5 games will show where Aberdeen are really at. We can't get too carried away after winning against Hearts, which realistically we got away with.
Dean, I want to actually ask you a question about the squad. We all included 2 signings today. Do you think there's enough quality in the squad for St Johnstone to stay up this season?
Oh, absolutely. I think the fact that a lot of folk have got us relegated is great because it sets an expectation of, they're just further. I mean, I don't know how Cup feels, but or even the rest of the boys, everybody's got Saints to go down. Everybody. And I'm here thinking, we'll be mid-table, guarantee. Because even the same way on Sunday, Simo doesn't change his style of football. We've played that football since we were relegated. When he first came in the door, the season we went down. All of last season, we've just picked off where we left off. Which literally, I love the fact people have got a relegated already. Season's not even kicked off and we're down. Okay, cool. Let's have yous.
There has been a running theme, obviously Dundee United and Falkirk. Do you think you could be a newly promoted team that finishes top 6 first season?
I mean, oh God. I mean, that's a hard question, that, well done, mate.
Got you on the spot, mate.
You have to, fair. But no, I think if we get top 6, happy days. I'll eat my left shoe. But, no, I don't think we'll get it. I think we'll be 8th. And if we just finish above Dundee, I don't care, personally. That's just be saying it now. Anybody but them, higher than us, I'm cool. You know what I mean? But I don't think we'll go down. I think the squad, I think he's added too much to go down.
Was there any positives for Kilmarnock after that 4-3 defeat, or do you think Neil McCann, still fixed himself? There's a lot to improve.
Well, there's plenty of positives for a game in the first half that we were really not really in it, and we still only went away with losing by 1 goal. And we had the period in just after this St Johnstone scored the second half goal, just at the start of the second half, the corner. McCann had to make changes. Tyrese had a head knock, so he brought on Jamie Brandon, which meant that Eric Ring can go from being a right back to go on to the right wing. And Brandon and Ring on that side were amazing. I think that was probably what McCann hinted at in his reaction when he said that he thinks tactically he got a couple of things quite wrong, and he'll have to kind of look at that, because it changed the dynamic. Because I think if I can remember, he changed the formation, so it ended up being like 3-5-1-2 or 2-1 or something. So he altered it in the second half, and for about 20 minutes when we got ahead, it didn't look like, for a good 15-20 minutes there, it didn't look like we were going to see much from St Johnstone. I didn't see what St Johnstone were going to do, but unfortunately when we took Ring off and brought on O'Hara and made another changes, we reverted back to what we were doing before, which allowed St Johnstone to come on to us and eventually get the win. So no, I don't think there's an issue in terms of the squad, and the positives are that we did create. We got away with it in the first half, and we got the goal from Kilty. But in that 20-minute period, you could see what McCann wants to do. And the unfortunate thing was, it was the back line that let us down. And there's not a lot you can legislate as a manager when you've got, as I've touched on, Shelty Brown being as poor as he was. In the back line, I mean, he just got, I don't know if you've seen that, Dean, even in the highlights when he scored, I don't know if it was a free kick or the corner. It was like an offensive lineman grabbed Shelty Brown and just pushed him back and then just headed it in. You're like, he had nothing. He just as if he wasn't
I was
there.
thinking, see when that went in, I was like, I was going to look at that, man. That looks a foul all day long.
Yeah, but
because he did have. You know what was caught, and he was like that at one point, wasn't he? He was,
just marshalled him back. He fell on his ass, headed it in. But the thing was, there was no physicality there. Jamie Brandon was able to stop the other player by blocking him, and you have to be smarter in how you block players. He was too square, he was too slow with it, and then the fourth goal when he stepped in to try and get the ball, he got sold, and then he just couldn't get the pace back. But in terms of positives, there are positives, because we're not going to be in a game again where we're going to have 4 or 5 players that are going to be that off the boil. That's just not going to happen. It just doesn't. We're professionals, and McCann won't allow it to happen. Tishbola has not had much of a pre-season for us, so he'll get back onto it, and we've got the quality, especially going forward. The biggest thing for me that will set up the season in terms of how the fans think about McCann is, so the Celtic game we don't need to care about, but if we go out against Ayr the following Friday and we lose 3-1, 3-0, there's a problem there, because the fans will get on that. We're at home against Ayr United, we should win that. No disrespect to Ayr United, but we should. So that's the issue. But in terms of, for me, for the squad, I think if he brings in a decent centre back, that's at 300 plus, 300 plus appearances and lower leagues down in England, even up in Scotland somewhere, because there's now rumours coming about that Burton Albion are looking to buy Stanger. Take him down south, so that will leave us we'll need at least 2 to cover that. So we'll score goals, but the problem is at the minute we're a bit leaky. But I don't see us being down at the bottom. I don't know. I've kind of tempered my expectations. I don't think we'll be quite top 6. I know the BBC pundits think we will be. I think we'll sit somewhere around the 7th, 8th mark. I think I watched most of the Falkirk game, and I think Falkirk really are in trouble. They just, I don't know what, you could see what we had going forward. You could see something. You could see what St Johnstone want to do. I watched the Aberdeen Hearts game. It wasn't the most exciting game to watch as a neutral, I have to admit. But you can see there's moments. You can see what they're trying to do. But Falkirk just looked completely bereft of anything. It was just a horrible game from Falkirk's perspective. But no, for Kilmarnock,
Stuart Miller's brutal for Falkirk. That's going to hamper them a lot.
So see with Falkirk, do you think it's a fact of them failing to replace losing Barnes Stewart and Miller? that's put them in this situation.
They've still got a while to replace them. I've heard Falkirk fans saying that they've got folk coming in, and McGlynn's an experienced manager and he's good at getting the most out of very little resources. So if they could make 5-6 signings in the next month and completely change their trajectory, I think there's who do you all have actually the bottom two? Because I've got St Johnstone and
everyone's got it's fine. It's all right.
I've got St Johnstone and St Mirren.
I've got Dundee and St Mirren.
I can never ever. I slated Stephen Presley so much when he came in, and he's just proved me wrong every time.
It's madness. It's madness. If the fact their fans weren't originally happy with that, they had the guy with the soundbite of the guy at the taxi going, "That's Avid Peanuts. That's the worst appointment." They weren't wanting them. Flat out, when they want them, and now they're like, "Oh, Presley ball." Do you know what I mean, pick a side? Do you know what I mean? No, I just think the fact that they had so many folk leave in the summer, be that loans or your two defenders, I just think it's too much. It's way too much.
Yeah,
I've actually did a Premiership prediction. I think it's probably one of the hardest this year. I probably would have thought St Mirren until they kind of hammered Falkirk with ease. But we will do a quick recap, and it's going to be just quick score predictions for your next game. Don't want any knowledge, just go what your heart says. Josh, Hearts against Dundee United, what's the score prediction for you?
1-0 Hearts.
Dean, St Mirren, St Johnstone.
2-1 Saints. Well, St Johnstone, yeah.
And obviously Dundee, Aberdeen.
2-0 Aberdeen.
And obviously, last but not least, Sunday's game, Kilmarnock against Celtic. What's your score prediction, Coops?
I'm going to go optimistic and say 2-2.
As I say, like fun, I don't see us winning that. I actually kind of agree with you. But that is obviously part 2 of this segment done. Obviously, to speak about Aberdeen, etc. We'll be talking about Celtic, Dundee, and obviously Hibs and Motherwell tomorrow, which will be a wee fiery debate. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button to subscribe. And if you're obviously watching on Spotify, hit that follow button. It's very much appreciated. But to now, I'll see you all for part 3. Ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Tartan Stand. This is going to be part 3 of this segment where we talk about Hibs and Motherwell and obviously Celtic and Dundee. Before we do get into it, I just want to kind of touch upon, the Celtic side of things with Martin O'Neill. We obviously heard he is in hospital. Hopefully does recover well. Apparently it's not too serious. I'm not going to dive into the WhatsApp rumours because I don't believe them as of yet. But yeah, just wanted to touch upon that before we could dive into this segment. But we will start off with the Hibs and Mull game. That was obviously a game before Celtic and Dundee. Harvey, you were very, optimistic even after the defeat. So what is your initial reaction after the 2-1 defeat?
I thought, well, give them all a bit of their due. They took their chances, they scored. They only had about, I think it was 3 attacks the whole game, or 4. Don't think they were. I thought they were much better the first half. I think when it came to the second half, we were really all over them. I think their goalkeeper made about 5 outstanding saves. Fillow's first time turning and hitting it first time on the volley. That one was hit off the far post, cleared by the keeper. Owen Eldon about 25 yards out, dipped it into the top left, saved by the keeper again. And overall, just really good performance for both teams. But I think Hibs just couldn't finish their chances, but I thought we were overall the better side.
After watching that performance, do you still think like Hibs can get third place?
It's only been one game. There's still 37 to go. So yeah, I agree with it. I think we can still get top 6.
Kyle, we will go over to you. Has this victory, boosted your expectations going into the season for Motherwell?
No, really, because I was expecting the exact same sort of style of football because it's an identity of what we're going to do this season and it's identity of how we're going to run things, obviously for the past year or so. But it wasn't really a surprise when I realised that we come home with 3 points because obviously it was patient, but it's nothing you're going to get right in the first try. It was a first Premiership game with a new manager, predominantly new squad. So you need to give Alfred the credit where it's due because it's a hard task to win your Premiership debut.
I'm going to actually ask something. This is obviously just based off last season and the start of this season. Is Motherwell heading in a direction, also taking out Celtic and Rangers, of being better than the rest of the league?
Well, obviously, last season you can't really comment with the run that Hearts done, but I feel like this season it's anyone's game, and I feel like we're up there with all the talk of that position below Celtic and Rangers, because it could be anyone within the league. But if you're talking to me in my muddle tinted glasses, I feel like we could be that team that could just sit in that third place spot.
Jamie, we will go over to Celtic. Obviously did beat Dundee by a goal to nil, but have you seen any improvement from this game, from last season, or does it just still feel the same to you in terms of performance?
Aye, it was very samey, wasn't it? I thought it was a very repetitive performance for last season. I didn't really see much change, unfortunately. Although it is just the first game of the season, you can't really judge it too much. But I must admit, I was sitting there thinking, this just could have been a game for last season. There wasn't enough urgency for me. You know what I mean? They did create chances and stuff like that, but it was, nothing major. You know what I mean? And we allowed Dundee to pass the ball about as well. Dundee had a couple of opportunities themselves. And it was, I've not seen a massive improvement for last season so far anyway.
Also, you kind of did speak about, the last time you were on the pod thinking, Celtic will win the league. But do you think this squad, in terms of right now, I'm not taking out the end goals in Johnson's sale because it hasn't happened as of yet. Do you think this squad can still win the league convincingly?
Yes, I do, mate. I do. I still think we've got the best squad in the country by a distance, to be honest. I think we've £11 million striker. He didn't play too great the other night, but the fact that he was just getting in the chances and stuff like that's not something I've seen since Kugo left. Do you know what I mean? His movement and stuff like that was fantastic. But obviously you're just going to get judged on scoring goals, and he missed a couple of big chances in that, and there's people coming out already writing him off in that, which is hilarious. But like I say, his movement and stuff was just something that we've not had in a while, and I thought that Martin O'Neill made a couple of mistakes, to be honest with you. I wasn't happy with Yang on the left. I don't think you get the same player there. He's already getting criticised for, how he plays and stuff like that when that's in his actual favourite position. Playing him out of position, you just get nothing for him, really. He was awful that night. And then you've got Camilo Duran, who's in there now and stuff, and he's maybe a central player. But Martin did say before the game, we might have to play him on the wing and stuff like that up until we get another winger in, and then. But I think the ultimate goal is he wants to play the two of them up front. He wants to play Duran and two up front together and stuff. So, but until we get the correct players in, that's just not going to happen. But I still believe we've still got the strongest squad in the country, mate. Aye, definitely.
Darren, obviously going to Celtic Park for the first game of the season is obviously difficult, probably the most difficult task in the Scottish Football League. But before kickoff, what was your thoughts going into that game? Was it a free hit, or were you still wanting to see something from that game?
Definitely a free hit, but I was actually happy with the way we set up. We went straight for it, as we did last season in the Cup. Obviously, it gave us a good run. Should have won that game, but yeah, I was happy with the style we set out, and it worked in the first half. It was one lapse in concentration in the second half that obviously gave the goal away, but yeah, I was pleased with the way we set up.
I know might be a stupid question to ask, but is there actually more optimism for Dundee's season just after the 1-0 defeat, especially looking at the Monday night game?
Definitely, because it seems like it's very similar to last season, but we've brushed up on a couple of areas. All the new boys I thought were very solid. And yeah, it was definitely a positive performance and good signs.
Okay, well, I will go back to you in the Hibs and Mull game. Is there still signs for Alfred Johansson that he would want to improve for this Mull squad, or do you think what he actually is ticking with the squad he's got right now, and you actually are seeing his style of play?
In terms of recruitment, I feel like we still do need to improve, because I don't think there was much attacking confidence going forward on Sunday. Obviously we did win the game overall, but even in some stints of the game, we just didn't have anyone in the box that was looking for the ball. We didn't have anyone holding up. We're missing that attacking threat. Obviously playing wingers up front, I know we've been trying it for the past year, but it's barely got us anywhere. So it's just a case of, if we're still looking at recruitment wise, a number 9 needs must, because I feel like we won't get anywhere forward if we do not sign a striker.
That's probably won't change your answer, but see if freaking Charles Cook scores that second one, would your answer be a wee bit more, maybe we need to improve somewhere else, or we actually could, hang off for like a few weeks, etc.?
If he puts it in, I don't think my opinion changes, because it was a pretty standard finish, and the fact that he actually managed to flick his lines, like, it was pretty impressive.
That's freaking Charles Cook for you. But Harvey, we will go for you because it still feels like, last season, there doesn't really look like there's anything moving forward for Hibs.
Not really, no. We've brought in signings. What have these signings realistically done? Jason Kerr was the reason Regan Charles Cook nearly scored. He just tried to shield it. Salinger didn't come out. I don't know. I would blame it on Jason Kerr. Right now, Salinger has made a really, really top tier save from the Regan Charles Cook effort, but there doesn't seem to be anything moving forward, and I'm not happy with how it is. I'm happy with David Gray, but I'm not happy with what is going on other way behind the scenes and stuff. But the thing
Why are you
is,
happy with David Gray?
happy with David Gray. I mean, obviously, I've said it before. A couple of seasons ago, I think did also like the expectation for Europe. Obviously, everything like Celtic and Rangers, they can kind of say it more a bit better than Hibs can. But the expectation for Europe, they expect to win. When it comes to Hibs and stuff, like winning's like it's not really an expectation unless you're like playing like no offense at teams like Dundee. Maybe Livy obviously can't because of Championship this year, but there's nothing going forward with Hibs, and I'm not happy with how it's going. But I'm happy with David Gray because he's doing a good job at the moment. Obviously, we've lost the first game of the season, but Rangers dropped points to Dundee United as well. And is everyone slagging Derek McInnes? A few of them are, not all though.
So, in your opinion, what do Hibs still need to strengthen in the transfer window?
It's a really tough one. Because we've got Nicky Cadden, he's injured now though. Adam Mayer, I'm not too keen on him so far. I don't think I've seen enough of him, but we need to get Nicky Cadden back as soon as we can. I think Chris Cadden leaving for Passlack, but then we've got Megwa as a backup, but it's hard to predict where Hibs actually need to strengthen because I think we've got a really overall good squad at the moment.
Kyle, I want to talk about you with the goalkeeping situation. He did do some decent saves, but it felt commanding his line. He's a wee bit off. He tried. I don't know if that was just trying to impress in his actual Scottish Premiership debut, but it felt like he was very, eager to come out. Did he even come and catch a ball? Do you feel that's a wee bit of a concern to you, the goalkeeping position?
Aye, no, there was a couple moments in the game where he's came out to claim a cross and he's nearly dropped it, and it's had to come back to Martin Moorman clearing two balls after line for us to actually be saved to 3 points. But I think it's just like rolling into a different league, like a completely different country. Like that might play some part in it, but I wouldn't be too concerned about it because he has a good shot stopper. Don't get him wrong. He's and one key reason why we won on Sunday and how we actually got through in the 2 European ties he's played as well.
Like, obviously, there was a wee bit debate in our group chat. Do you think Mull performed better than Hibs on the day, or would you actually agree with Harvey a wee bit that Hibs were slightly better than Motherwell?
I'm 50-50 on it because I feel like Hibs actually dominated the ball, but going forward they did not look that threatening. But on the other side, we didn't have much of the ball, but when we did go forward, we looked a bit more promising. Obviously, what I'm saying about us needing a striker, but we're getting balls into the box, but just nobody's in there. Like, we've got the positivity to go forward, but just not in the final third, apparently.
Jamie, obviously, I kind of did speak about it, like, obviously keeping Alistair Johnson and Engels into the team about winning the league convincingly, but let's be honest, they are going to go. I think Alistair Johnson is going to be a much bigger loss than Aaron Engels. Does that make the transfer window even more harder for Celtic? Because let's be honest, for the past maybe decade, they haven't really got everyone in sight. When Ange was here, they got all the signings, but everyone was saying, but we still need a left back. With Brendan Rodgers, it was still always we need a left back for Greg Taylor. It feels like there's so much more that Celtic need to do. It feels like even 6, 7 signings may not be enough. Does that worry you, especially heading into Europe?
Absolutely, mate. Definitely. I mean, already I think as it stands, we need about 5, to be honest, and that's with Engels and Alistair Johnston leaving. So ultimately we need 7 or 8. Once they do move on, I agree. I think they will move on as well, mate. And I mean, it's a weird one though because like obviously a lot of you guys are Hibs fans, Motherwell fans, Dundee fans, there, right? And you must look at Celtic and you must go, all these days moan. You know what I mean? He's moaning, he's won the league every year, he's won trophies and he's doing well and all that. And I get that argument 100%. So I do feel a bit kind of, you have to kind of look at the bigger picture. You know what I mean? The fact that we did dominate most of the time in Scotland every year. But I mean, when it comes to me, I've said this before. Like I want to improve in Europe. I want to go into Europe and compete. I'm not saying win Champions Leagues and all that because that's obviously ridiculous because there's far too much money out there. But we should be getting into games confident we could get a result against anybody. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, we could do that, and it was only a couple of years ago we came so close to getting by Bayern Munich and stuff. And yeah, definitely. We've only got is it 8 days left until we can register players for the Champions League qualifier.
Yeah.
We need 5 players. We as it stands, we need 5 players. Do you know what I mean? And we're going to go into this underprepared again, 100%. And we're only one injury away or one suspension away from Dane Murray being in that team. You know what I mean? And that absolutely frightens me. We're only one injury, one suspension away for Anthony Ralston starting in that team. And you can't be getting into it. And no disrespect to these guys, but they're never Champions League level. You know what I mean? And we've got to go out there and try and be prepared. And it's every single year, as you say, Jordan. You know what I mean? It's going on for like a decade now where we're no prepared getting into these massive, massive games and stuff. But yet, because we churn out leagues and we churn out, league cups and, trophies, which obviously is fantastic and we all love them and stuff like that. They get away with it. The board kind of get away with it because you're winning trophies and stuff. But I'm very worried about the Champions League qualifier, mate. This is the Austrian champions here, and they won the double last year. They're obviously no mugs. So I mean, it's going to be a tough match, regardless. Even if we do get the 5 players, it's going to be tough. Do you know what I mean? A wee bit. When I done a video the other day, I kind of said I'm happy the first leg is at home, but the more I think about it, I probably preferred the second one to be at home because then you could go over there, try and nick a draw or whatever, and then come back to Celtic Park. You know what you've got to do, but all the pressure's going to be on this first game now. You know what I mean? To try and take some sort of comfortable lead over there. But I think we definitely need players in, and yeah, every day you're I'm just checking every other hour to see if there's anybody coming through the door and all that. But nothing's happening, man. They're clearly in no rush, which is worrying.
Does
Quickly,
that not worry you
Sorry,
about how like far Celtic's behind? Like you would play Leon, Juventus, you would get a result, but now you're actually scared about playing Austrian champions when you actually qualify. You can play like against Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Man City. So is Celtic? I know a lot of Celtic fans might not want to admit that, but are they just a Europa League or Conference League team now just because of this board?
As it stands, yeah, definitely. Definitely. We don't have a Champions League squad there at the minute, that's for sure. That's why I'm saying we need 5. Last night we let Paulo Bernardo go. So that's another one off the books. That's now Celtic let 15 players go and they've only brought 2 in. So I mean that itself, that stat itself, as we're going up to a Champions League qualifier in 8-9 days is absolutely incredible. So yeah, definitely it's worrying, and I know what you're saying about the Europa League kind of level and that. I would say conference as it stands, to be honest. I'd be worried to get into. I would genuinely be worried to get into Europa League with a squad, because there's we need strength all over it. Plus, there's 2 guys in that team who heads will be elsewhere. You know what I mean? And plus, you've got the fact that Cameron Carter-Vickers is just coming back from injury, so he'll maybe take a wee while to get back up to speed. Although he was very good the other night and all that, but it's going to be a different level when you get into Europe. I think we've got a goalkeeper that isn't good enough for that level either. I think we've got players all over the park that aren't really good enough for that level, to be honest. But I mean, as it stands, I would say we're Conference League level, unless we get 5 or 6 real quality players in.
Darn, like I know this is going off one game, but if you have these performances that say like 24 games out of a 38 game season, do you think Dundee can break into the top 6?
To be honest, it depends on how your Aberdeens, your Hibs do. Past seasons, they've they've like lingered in the bottom six, and it's given us, obviously we finished top six in our first season back up. It does kind of depend on that, because if they're on it, then there's only really one spot. Obviously there's Motherwell pretty much occupying that as well. So, but yeah, absolutely, I don't see why not, because in terms of the bottom six, I don't see much difference in quality between all of us. So it's hard to pinpoint who will be up there and who won't. Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot right here, right now. Do you think you'll finish higher than Dundee United?
Yeah.
That's a no with that response. Oh, yes, I took his time.
I've got to say yes, haven't I?
There was one player that stood out to me Monday, and that was Bevan. I think he's on loan for Bournemouth. Like, he was incredible, and it feels like, obviously, with that performance, he's obviously just going to improve further on. Can you believe you've actually got that coup of a player at Dundee?
Is that the winger or the defender? Because we've got two Bevans.
Winger, I think it's
winger.
Winger.
So he's permanent. He signed in January last season. I think he came from like Cowdenbeath or something. And I'll be honest, I seen him at Falkirk away last season. I thought, it's another one of these duds from like the bottom, like lower leagues in Scotland. But he was really impressive the other night. I think him and Charlie Riley on the wings gives us something we've not really had. I know we had Yagan and Congreve, who were highly coveted last season, but the actual end product wasn't really there for them. I know Charlie Riley missed a good chance the other night, but I like him, and hopefully, Bevan kicks on. Got Forrest back up as well. I still think we need another one on the left as well, but yeah, I'm happy with them so far.
Can you think? Well, do you think Simon Murray is still capable of leading the line for Dundee throughout a 38-game season?
So he wouldn't be my starting striker. I really like Ashley Hay. I don't see why. And I get Murray, obviously Dundee fan, Dundee through and through, and what he offers, he's a nightmare for defenders. But I like what Ashley Hay gives us more. I think we're more of a threat. Obviously, Forrest put a ball into the box last 10 minutes. We nearly scored. Ashley Hay nearly scored from it. He's shown me. What was that?
Simon Murray's a rat.
This guy. But yeah, nah. He's threw me right off there. Yeah, I prefer Ashley Hay, to be honest, but I still definitely keep Murray around and bring him on last 20 minutes when the defenders are tired. That's an absolute nightmare, in my opinion.
I've got an opinion here, obviously might be wrong, but I think Aaron Forrest is a massive upgrade over Yagang. Don't get me wrong, Yagang's got obviously the age and, to obviously improve in that level, but you see him in the last 10 minutes, he caused Celtic problems.
Yeah.
Massively.
He's I didn't know much about him coming in, but he definitely looks like what we've missed over the past few years. Yagan was very good at just looking good, but no really much end product. We're wanting something different this season, clearly, and Forrest looks like he's going to offer that.
Harvey, I'm going to put you straight on the spot here, right? Do you think you will finish above Motherwell, who's mostly favourite for that third place spot?
Yes.
So do you think you're going to finish third then?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Well, I thought you want as a fact. Well, I mean, if we do bring in more business, it's more business, obviously, but some of the work rate in some of these Hibs players is really, really positive, and they're always working. Like Owen Eldon, for example, when he's still young, about 18-year-old, he's going to be some player. I'll call that now. But he's got this every game. He goes off the pitch with a purple face. He's always there. He puts everything into it. So does Chaiwa. Chaiwa was all over the pitch against Motherwell. It was all over the pitch against Malashiva on the Thursday. I think there's a lot to come for Hibs this season, and a lot more development in the squad to push on.
Pierce, I'm going to go on a mad long rant to you, Harvey. You say if Hibs bringing players for the transfer window, that's obviously not a fact. You then talk about Eldon, who I think is a great player, but he is young, so he's going to have lots of probably games that's going to be inconsistent. Chaiwa might leave. Celtic's are partly linked. I don't think he'll go to Celtic, but I still think he could do it himself. There's a lot of ifs surrounding Hibs, and there's probably a lot of ifs surrounding David Gray if he lasts a full season, because I know the Hibs board will be professional as long as they want, but they'll still look to Hearts. It's just the same as Celtic to look to Rangers. Celtic lost against Rangers in the Scottish Cup semi-final with Ronnie Dyler. They brought in Brendan Rodgers and just blasted everyone because they just couldn't let the rivals be better than them. I know there's a lot different between some financial structure, but I'm not going to. It's obviously your opinion. you're entitled to your opinion, but I think you're saying fact is a bit mental for me. But you can obviously have your saying it, and if you want to go into more detail on why you think like against my questions, but I just don't see it at all.
I mean, Chaiwa could leave, but I mean, yes, there is a possibility. But I mean, Celtic, though, we can definitely rule out Celtic. Celtic will not pay 7-8 million for, like, they've done it before. They didn't pay it for Bowie, and then as soon as Bowie went to Italy, they wanted them for 10 million. Celtic will refuse to pay another Scottish club over about 2 million for a player. They won't do it. So he won't go to the Celtic. Yes, he's linked. I think the worst one for transfer rumours is Josh Mulligan. He's linked with so many clubs down in England, and if he leaves, I could not see Hibs getting third. I will tell you that. If Josh Mulligan does leave, I will take back everything I've just said, and we will finish fourth.
Does that not make your argument so weak, because you're just basing on one player?
Not, I mean, you've got a few, but I mean, if as Kyle said in the group chat, if Regan Charles Cook's playing every week for Motherwell, I could see Hibs finishing third as well.
Kyle, get a response to that?
First of all, don't ever disrespect Regan Charles Cook again. He's just having a rough patch. Second of all, I feel you've kind of contradicted yourself with what you've said. Because firstly you were saying, "Oh, Hibs are going to finish third." That's a fact. But now, if Josh Mulligan leaves, you don't see these getting third. Like, at least back your point. If your players leave,
I'd be absolutely shocked if Hibs finished third. Shocked. I think it's far
Same.
better. You've got Aberdeen, you've got Hearts. You know, they two are straight away are ahead of Hibs this season, 100%.
We've done it before. We'll do it again.
it's getting a bit heated.
Listen, he's got his opinion. He can obviously, he is a Hibs fan, so it is obviously fair enough to write and have that. But we will do a wee recap. We'll just do the wee score predictions for the next games. We will start off with Hibs. You've got the big one against Rangers. Score prediction.
Well, I said it on my lives as well. I think it really does depend. Also, I know I'm basing it on something again, but I think if the Derek McInnes hearing eventually happens and Derek McInnes isn't on the sidelines, I would say 2-1 Hibs. If Derek McInnes is on the sideline, I'm going to say 3-1 Hibs.
Fair enough. Kyle, you've got Falkirk, your bogey team. What's your score prediction against Falkirk?
Right. Let's go deep into this. So I'm hearing that John McGlynn's trying a new system with Falkirk, and it doesn't seem to be going well to start off with. That is filling me with a sense of security. I think any sort of victory I would take, but if you had to ask me a certain prediction to get away for the 2-0 voodoo, I'll say we'll beat them by 2-1. But just any sort of victory, I'll actually honestly take.
Darren, you've obviously got Aberdeen the weekend. A team that obviously did beat Hearts, but never really performed that well. Obviously, Dundee kind of did perform decent against Celtic. What's your score prediction going into a tie? It could probably set up Dundee's season.
2-1 Dundee.
These are all shite bags by with your score predictions, Jamie. I'm expecting a big one for you, especially after the 3-2 game at Rugby Park last season. What's your score prediction for against Kilmarnock?
I think we'll get a few goals, mate. I think it'll be, I'm going to say 3-1 Celtic.
Obviously, it's a touchy subject. Do you think Martin O'Neill will be in the touchline, or do you think it'll be dead set and Sean Maloney?
No, sure, mate. I'm not really sure what's went wrong today. You know what I mean? Obviously, it said there's been a minor procedure and he'll be out in a couple of days, but it just depends how fit he is, what's actually happened. I don't know. People try to spread rumours on social media and stuff without knowing anything, but I'm hoping it is just obviously something really minor and he'll be back in the dugout for Sunday. But I mean, it all just depends on that, mate. But see, just talking about Dundee, by the way, sorry to kind of change things up a wee bit here, but when are we going to start putting some respect on Stephen Presley's name, by the way? When's that going to happen? Stephen Presley has done a fantastic job at Dundee. And Scottish football, I don't think has recognised that enough. Last season, everybody in their granny was writing us Dundee. And they were going, Stephen Presley's an idiot, you know what I mean? He's a mug, he's this and that. He got them playing some fantastic football last season. Then this season, they've lost a lot of their key players and they perform like that at Parkhead. I was really impressed with Dundee the other night, by the way, and there's no danger they're going down if they play like that this season.
Before anyone dives in, I want to actually respond to that. I think most people, even Dundee fans, thought the appointment of Stephen Presley. We've all seen that massive meme with the guy in his car in STV News. Like, it was a cheap option. Because he did still have a rough 3-4 months. It wasn't until like January when it on that impressive run, also nearly put out Celtic. Don't get me wrong, they did get a draw at Ibrox, second game of the season, but I think a lot of people, I wouldn't say I had a right, because obviously football's all about opinions, but I feel like there was some truth to people thinking this guy's not managed in 7 years, and to get Dundee job, Gordon Strachan hired him because it's his pal. I think there was some right in the argument, but listen, I got proved wrong. I predicted him to get sacked his first one. I think a lot of people got predicted him, but listen, he has turned it around, and it's great to see. And I feel like he looks more confident at touchline. You know, he was more animated in the Celtic game. I was like that. Usually just standing at the touchline the first 3 games, hand in his pocket. So yeah, it is obviously good for him to, actually turn it around at Dundee. But
You can see the players believe in what he's trying to do as well. He's the first manager I've seen come to Dundee and adopt that approach both at Ibrox and Parkhead. You know what I mean? Just have a go, because most of the time we're just sitting and it's rarely ever goes well. And he's done that every time now since he came in. He obviously believes in what he's trying to do. So do the players, and yeah, I've never been happier to eat my words, honestly.
Anyone else to get into that? Kyle, you looked pretty ecstatic about the Stephen Presley compliment.
No, definitely. Like, it's something I've said. Well, I was one of the folk that rode the train to say that he was going to get sacked first, but yet again, what Darren was saying, he was more than happy to eat his own words, and I was definitely the same. Like, I've realised this in the last 6 months. Like, Stephen Presley is so underappreciated. It's unbelievable.
But
I'm actually glad I went to you. Sorry, I'm actually glad I went to you, because you celebrated like you predicted that he wasn't going to get sacked. You dirty wee liar. That was a celebration of a lying there.
The reason I brought that up, by the way, and I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but I get hundreds of things wrong when I do the podcast every week. But that is one I did get right. I had a feeling Stephen Presley was going to do really well. As soon as he came in, I was like, I think it was just the fact everybody was writing him off. I was like, I think you need to calm down a wee bit here. He's just spent a good few years doing an English Premier League, obviously, with the Brentford youngsters and stuff like that. I just thought he would have learnt a lot down there. You know what I mean? And it's proved to be right. He's came up here and he's done a fantastic job.
He's a good manager, and I think a good example is showing how Stephen Presley can come back and show in games was when it was last year. Hibs were playing Dundee. I think it ended 2-2.
3-3.
3-3 game. Yeah, it was 3-3.
Yeah.
Jamie McGrath scored in like the 89th minute. Soto scored a minute before that. It's 3-2 Hibs, and it's like 90+2 when we scored the third. And then Cammy Congreves just decides to turn into like the best player on the pitch and just hit an
What a player he was, by the way. What a player he is.
Just decided to hit an absolute thundercump past Salinger.
He's actually left for 700k to
Westerlo.
Aye. So.
But you've seen it last season in the derby as well, which that's another thing I've not really seen from Dundee teams over the year. We don't know when we're beat now. Obviously, we're 2-0 down in the derby at home, 91st minute, it ended up 2-2. Obviously, a bit of a fluke, and they've obviously bottled it, but yeah, it's definitely something I've noticed about us.
Even though they actually had that header. Thankfully, Sinisapple made the save at the corner on that. But I mean, Dundee were still threatening towards the end and stuff. I thought they were excellent, mate. And the thing is, it's like, obviously, it's a results-driven business and all that. And Stephen Presley's getting praised because, they kept Dundee up last season. But I think the style of play as well, as you say, it's like, I think he's been excellent, man, in every department, to be honest with you. And, it was a tough job to take on after what happened with Tony Docherty and stuff like that. And,
absolutely. And the amount of players we lost as well. It took them a good few months to get going, but like I say, they've all bought into what he was saying. Even when it wasn't going well, he kept drilling it in that it's going to click soon, and he was right. Do you know what I mean?
I would be thinking you could get top 6 this season.
Yep, definitely overtaking Hibs anyway.
Right, I said I was recapping this 3 minutes ago, so we do need to recap this. So if you are still watching, thank you so much. Hit that like button, subscribe. If you are obviously listening to Spotify, hit that follow button. It helps us out so much. But until next time, we'll see you in the next video.